Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something critical but maybe a bit overlooked in tech: identity management.
It definitely flies under the radar sometimes.
Right. So we're going to pull apart non-human and human identities. We want to figure out why understanding both is just, well, essential for good security and efficiency. Any IT setup, really.
Absolutely key.
We've looked at the sources you sent, and our mission here is to, distill the main ideas, give you a clear path to understanding why these two types of identities are so different, but also equally vital.
Sounds good. They serve very distinct roles.
Okay, so let's unpack this then. When we say non-human identities, what exactly are we talking about? Is it just like a fancy term for a system password, or is it more complex?
It's definitely deeper than just a password. Think of non-human identities as digital entities.
Digital entities.
Yeah, like applications, services, scripts, even devices, like an IoT sensor. They need to access systems or data, but without a person actively logging in.
Okay, so automation is the key.
Exactly. Their whole purpose is automation, communication between systems, making things run efficiently without direct human intervention.
And how are they set up?
Usually through things like service accounts, API keys, or maybe digital certificates. And because they're automated, the access rules, the policies, have to be super strict, really granular.
Makes sense. You don't want a script going rogue.
Precisely. It's about letting machines talk securely to other machines.
So when would you actually use one? What are the scenarios?
Well, you use them for that automation and integration we talked about. Anytime a human isn't needed at the keyboard, basically. They're perfect for enabling communication between different systems or apps. Think API access, maybe your sales app needs data from your finance system.
Right, happens all the time.
Yeah, or for batch processing, like running nightly reports or those CI/CD pipelines for software development. Any kind of unattended operation, really.
Okay, that paints a pretty clear picture for the non-human side. Often invisible, but doing critical work. So then, how does that contrast with human identities? What defines them? I assume it's more straightforward.
It is, in a way. Human identities are, well, exactly what they sound like. They represent individual users, real people.
Us.
Us, yes. People interacting with systems, logging in, making decisions, doing tasks. They're tied to a specific person and grant access based on, their role, their job, company policies.
And that's where passwords and usernames come in.
Right. Usernames, passwords, and increasingly multi-factor authentication, MFA, that extra layer of security.
Crucial these days.
Absolutely. And the really big difference here, maybe the most critical, is accountability. Human identities are vital for compliance because you have clear audit trails. You can see who did what and when.
The accountability factor, that's huge.
It is. So you'd use human identities anytime you need that direct user interaction or decision-making.
Like logging into your work computer.
Exactly. Logging into workstations, email, business apps, anything a person needs to do their job or access a service online. And like I said, they're indispensable when you need those audit trails and individual accountability.
Yeah.
Think about tracking who accessed sensitive customer data, for example.
Got it. Okay, so we have these two distinct types. Let's talk about how they're used in the wild. Can you give us some concrete examples? Let's start with non-human again.
Sure. So non-human identities basically act as the representatives for those apps, scripts, services, or devices inside authentication systems.
Like a digital ambassador?
Kind of, yeah. They're almost always paired with very specific, tightly controlled access policies and service accounts. The goal is always the principle of least privilege. Give them only the access they absolutely need to do their specific job, nothing more.
Minimizing risk.
Exactly. Think of them like specialized tools, each with a very specific function and limited power.
Okay, so what are some use cases?
Well, API integration is a big one. A non-human identity authenticates an API call, so two apps can exchange data securely. Say, a customer relationship management system, a CRM, pulling order history from an e-commerce platform.
Makes sense.
Automation, of course. Running scheduled tasks like database backups or powering those CI/CD pipelines we mentioned for developers.
Right, the software development cycle.
Yep, and IoT devices. Every smart device, maybe your office's smart thermostat, needs a unique identity to securely communicate with its cloud service.
I hadn't really thought of my thermostat having an identity.
It does. And in modern software, like microservices architectures, they're crucial for secure service-to-service communication. Yeah. Think of all the little pieces of a big website, like an online store, talking to each other securely behind the scenes.
Can you give specific tech examples?
Sure. In Amazon's cloud, AWS, you see IAM roles used. That's how you give permissions. For instance, a Lambda function that's serverless code might get an IAM role to access files in an S3 storage bucket, or in Microsoft Azure. You might have managed identities used by an app service, like a web app, to securely grab secrets, like database passwords, from Azure Key Vault.
So it avoids hard-coding passwords in the app.
Exactly. Very important. Even things like database connectors or Kubernetes pods often use service accounts for authentication.
That really drives home how widespread and fundamental non-human identities are, even if we don't see them directly.
They're everywhere in modern infrastructure.
So flipping back to human identities, what are their common uses out there? These are probably more familiar to us.
They probably are, yeah. Human identities represent individuals in those authentication and authorization systems.
Like logging into your work account.
Right. They're usually paired with MFA, hopefully, and role-based access control, RBAC. So your permissions depend on your job title or function.
Makes sense.
And they're tied to unique identifiers, username, email, sometimes biometrics like a fingerprint.
In these cases.
Well, the most basic is employee access, logging to workstations, email, company applications, standard stuff.
Daily life for many.
Exactly. Also, customer portals accessing your online bank account or your favorite shopping site. That's human identity in action.
Okay.
Remote work relies heavily on them too, connecting securely to the company network using a VPN or accessing a virtual desktop.
Essential for hybrid work.
Totally. And in more critical situations, like a security incident, human identities are essential for incident response. Admins need verified identities to investigate and fix problems.
Right. You need to know who is making changes.
Absolutely. So common examples are things like Active Directory users in a Windows network, SaaS accounts, think Salesforce, Office 365, and those VPN user accounts for remote access.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. We've defined them, seen the uses, but let's nail down the fundamental differences. Why do these distinctions matter so much, especially when we talk about security?
Yeah, this is crucial. And what's fascinating is how their core purpose really dictates everything else, especially the security approach.
How so?
Well, for non-human identities, the purpose is all about automation, system-to-system interaction. They exist to perform a task, often repeatedly, without human thought involved at the moment of action.
Predictable, ideally.
Ideally, yes. Whereas human identities, they're about human access, human decision-making, and let's be honest, potential human error.
Always a factor.
Always. So their usage reflects that. Non-human involves scripts, services, devices running automatically. Human involves an individual user authenticating, which can be much less predictable.
And the examples highlight this too.
Definitely. Non-human uses things like those API keys, machine service accounts. Human identities cover employee logins, vendor accounts, customer accounts. Interestingly, sometimes you have shared service accounts or application accounts that humans log into directly to perform specific tasks.
So a human is still involved.
Right. And in those cases, even though it might be called a service account, you often manage it more like a human identity because there's a person interacting with it. The real critical difference often comes down to the scale of access and the potential impact if compromised.
What do you mean by blast radius?
Well, if a single human user account gets compromised, it might affect that user's data or access. Bad, but maybe contained. But if a poorly configured non-human identity with broad permissions gets compromised, it could potentially expose an entire system, an entire database. The blast radius can be much, much larger.
Wow, okay. That really raises the stakes.
It does.
And that difference immediately makes me think about a massive security headache. Managing credentials, like passwords, especially password rotation. How do you handle that for each type, given non-humans might not even use traditional passwords?
You've hit on a really key difference in approach there. For non-human identities, the focus really shifts away from static, long-lived passwords.
So what do they use?
The best practice is short-lived credentials, or tokens, things that expire quickly. And crucially, you rely heavily on automated tools for managing these secrets.
Like what kind of tools?
Things like specialized secrets management vaults. You might have heard of HashiCorp Vault, or cloud services like AWS Secrets Manager or Azure Key Vault. Delinia's Secret Server is another example.
And these tools automate rotation.
Yes, exactly. They automatically generate and rotate credentials, ensuring that if a secret is ever somehow exposed, its useful lifespan is incredibly short, maybe minutes or hours. Reduces the window of opportunity massively.
Makes sense. Less time for attackers to use it.
Precisely. And alongside that, regular audits of their access levels are vital. You have to constantly verify they adhere strictly to that principle of least privilege. Only the absolute minimum permissions needed. The ideal state is that no human ever needs to know the actual password or secret for these non-human identities.
Wow, so it's taken completely out of human hands.
But that's the goal for maximum security, yes.
That is a world away from how most of us think about passwords. So for human identities, the ones we use every day, what's the advice there on rotation and management? Still rotate passwords every 90 days.
Well, the approach for humans is quite different, as you'd expect. Yes, enforcing strong password policies, complexity, length, regular rotation intervals is still important baseline hygiene.
But, I sense a but.
But honestly, passwords alone just aren't enough anymore. MFA, multi-factor authentication, is absolutely critical. It strengthens security dramatically, moving beyond just relying on something you know the password.
That second factor, like a code from your phone.
Exactly. Even if your password gets phished or stolen, that second factor acts as another barrier. User education is also massive here.
Teaching people not to click on weird links.
That, and teaching them to avoid reusing passwords across different sites, encouraging the use of password managers, and helping them recognize phishing attempts. Because the human element is, unfortunately, often the weakest link.
Yep.
And finally, leveraging single sign-on SSO solutions can really help. It reduces the number of passwords users need to remember, password sprawl, we call it, making it easier for them to manage fewer, stronger credentials and improving security overall.
It's striking how different those two approaches are, isn't it? Automation versus education, almost.
It really is. What stands out to you about how different the security approaches have to be for these two types of identities? It feels like two sides of the same security coin, but you absolutely need different tools and mindsets for each side.
Yeah, absolutely. The idea that for one type, the goal is for no human to even know the password, while for the other, it's all about educating the human user. That's quite a contrast. It highlights the unique vulnerabilities of each.
It really does.
So, okay, let's pull all this together then. We've defined them, seen the uses, looked at the security differences. What does this all mean for us? What's the big picture takeaway here?
Well, the bottom line is that both non-human and human identities are, frankly, indispensable in any modern IT environment. You simply can't run things effectively or securely without managing both properly.
Two essential pillars.
Exactly. Non-human identities. They enable that seamless automation, the system integrations. They're the silent, efficient engine driving a lot of digital operations. They give you speed and scale.
And the humans.
Human identities ensure secure and, importantly, accountable user access. They are the gatekeepers for direct human interaction, for decision-making, for auditing who did what.
So you need both, working together but managed differently.
Precisely. And that leads to the most critical takeaway, the thing you really need to remember. Implementing tailored identity management practices for each type is vital.
Tailored is the key word.
Absolutely. Things like automated short-lived credential rotation for non-human identities and robust MFA coupled with ongoing user education for human identities. Getting this right is fundamental to reducing risk and boosting overall security across your entire environment.
Because trying to manage one type using the rules designed for the other.
It's just asking for trouble. A recipe for security gaps and operational failures.
And there you have it. That really clarifies things. This deep dive, I think, has given us a much clearer, really actionable understanding of these two fundamental identity types.
I hope so.
Yeah, showing just how different they are, why those differences matter, and yet how equally important they both are in our digital world. We've seen how machines talk to machines and how we humans fit into that picture.
It's a complex dance.
It really is. And that makes me think, as our digital world just keeps getting more complex, with AI becoming more integrated, IoT devices exploding everywhere, everything getting more connected, how might the lines between human and non-human identity management continue to evolve, maybe even blur? And what new challenges or maybe opportunities will that bring for you?
That's a great question to ponder.
Definitely something to think about. Till next time.